Welcome to the Art of Marketing Operations, a Taylor podcast. Here you can grow your knowledge about marketing operations, listen to ideas and strategies to help you scale, grow, and optimize your efficiency, drive your speed to market, and enrich your work life. Let's get to it.
Welcome to the Art of Marketing Operations, a Taylor podcast. I'm Glenn Bottomley, and today my guest is Jeff Campbell, co-founder and president at aiCommerce and also a professor at Wake Forest University. Thanks for joining us today, Jeff.
Oh, just great to be back, Glenn. Thanks for having me.
Exactly. That's one of the things I wanted to say is thank you so much for coming back on our show. I am so excited to hear more from you about what has been happening since the last time that you were on our show. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you have been passionate about in the world of marketing operations since you were last on. What's been going on in your space?
Yeah, it's a lot. I always joke we live in dog years. One year equals 7, right? Last time we talked about profitability and how to really understand profitability and break even and how marketing dollars kind of apply into that formula. I'd say the theme right now is diversification, right? We live in a world where we saw Amazon, especially in e-commerce, just grow to dominance. And now you've got some new players and some new types of channels. As you think in put your consumer hat on, you have the websites, and everybody loves going to websites, but people have stopped going to websites as much. They've started to hold back on giving the email address and a credit card and trying to learn somebody else's return policy. And then on the other hand, they can go to Amazon, right? The Prime guy is coming twice a week already, and it's easy. And what we're seeing that's really starting to rival marketplaces now is social commerce, and particularly TikTok. So that's been a big focus, watching that grow and watching them roll out some new platforms that are really driving clearly a focus on commerce for them. So as a marketing operations person, I'm thinking about overall growth, and I'm thinking about channel growth, and I'm thinking about diversity.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, let's dive in a little bit on TikTok. You just raised that there. So how do you feel that social media apps like TikTok, with things like TikTok Shop, how does that influence how brands should be going to market?
Yeah, I think, thinking about the consumer, they don't go to one place, right? Now we know Amazon's dominant, and that's where most of them are starting. That's the top place for searches in the US when it comes to consumer goods. But where the growth is, as you mentioned, is TikTok. And we're seeing Instagram, we're even seeing YouTube grow year over year in terms of places where people start search. Unfortunately, Google is not, at least google.com proper, is not where they're starting any longer or as much as some of these other platforms grow. Another stat I like to talk about is 56% of US brands use more than 5 retail media networks. 16% use more than 10, and that's according to the Association of National Advertisers. So again, they're diversifying. So rolling into TikTok and TikTok Shop, which really was, I think, formally announced very recently, that's letting brands through live shopping and through advertising let purchases happen, right? More and more people are saying, hey, whether it's Instagram or TikTok, I'll share my credit card data. And if I can just hit shop now or buy now, and that could be fulfilled directly to me like an Amazon, that's one less step in my buying process. And TikTok is rolling out or has a fulfillment center now, right? So they're having warehouses, they're playing the logistics game. And what you're going to see shortly are 2 new additions in their platform. One is paid search. So you've probably heard of the hashtag TikTok made me buy it. But even when somebody's looking for, pickleball videos, and you're selling the very popular, pickleball paddles and rackets, you can be right there, bid on those keywords, show your content, and have ads right there to be able to buy those paddles. And the second thing you're going to see after the paid search platform that they're rolling out is a third-party marketplace. So like Amazon, like Walmart, it's letting third-party sellers onto their platform, selling their goods and be able to fulfill in whatever method, or potentially use TikTok's method as well. So really exciting space to watch, because that really is Right now, it's number 2 in terms of minutes used in the world of social. By 2025, it will be number 1 according to eMarketer forecast. So it is dominant, it is growing fast, and everybody wants to go after the Zoomers. It is certainly where they are, but it's also getting a lot of older consumers involved as well. So it is exciting to see the growth in the people, in the content, in the buying opportunities, their focus in commerce and more. And we haven't even talked about influencers, right? There is more influencer spend, or I guess I should say influencer spend with brands is growing faster than social media spend. So kind of the traditional ads that you would buy in Meta and Instagram and YouTube and more is being spent more now on influencers. And TikTok's platform sounded like a TikTok commercial. Sorry, Glenn. But it actually allows you very easily to connect with influencers. So again, I can find influencers that talk about pickleball and contact them directly to see if they're interested in repping my pickleball shoes or paddles or whatever it might be. And they incorporate that in, and then we work out, kind of the financials between us all in that single platform. Previously, there were networks that came up, and there were YouTube influencers and micro and macro influencers, and there were these systems that kind of had to make the connections for you. That was a third party that was taking dollars, and that middleman has now been eliminated on TikTok for the most part, and you can interact directly with these influencers. So it's been a lot of fun to watch kind of social commerce grow as kind of a third channel for consumer purchases, and us as marketers have to think about operationally.
And if TikTok is number 2 now, obviously Facebook number 1, but if TikTok is number 2, and it's within a couple of years, will overtake Facebook. Obviously, if we think about the amount of regulation that has, impacted Facebook, what are your thoughts on regulation for TikTok as it's approaching that degree or that level of, global dominance?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you read the news, and it really is because it is a Chinese-owned company that it's getting the scrutiny it is. Our lawmakers really need to, and this is a quick personal rant of mine, they really need to back up and say, we need data regulation and consumer privacy regulation that covers every country and every company out there. Because what's not cool is there's companies in the US doing far worse with our customer data and our information than TikTok has ever been shown to do. I get how China as owners can be scary in having and owning this data, but if we applied and got kind of our Congress working and applying these laws and applying them equally to all companies, no matter who owns them or what country they're from, we're going to be in much better shape. So really, that's what needs to happen, in my opinion, is let's get some data regulation and data policy out of Washington and apply that equally versus pick on the newsworthy, they're from China and therefore they're bad. Like, I get it, but at the same time, there's U.S. companies doing far worse and have been doing far worse that need regulated potentially more than TikTok. So we'll see where it goes. Knowing the stalemate of our elected officials probably won't go anywhere fast, which is unfortunate. But in the meantime, we gotta think bigger than just one company in one country.
Yes, we need to stay tuned on that. There's going to be some developments, I'm sure, that'll hopefully happen soon. Now, so the last time that we chatted, I know that you had shared sort of your own growing passion for how, all of these buying spaces, diversification, and then also how they are all working together, specifically marketplace shopping, retail, online, et cetera. So when you think about all of the various places and how they are working together, how do you see them working together, and what trends have you been seeing since we last chatted?
Yeah, I love my data, and attribution is probably one of the biggest answers, but also one of the hardest problems to solve. Is how it all works together, because you have to really measure it down to a kind of a single consumer, a group of consumers, and that's really tough to do. We are seeing, again, I mentioned a lot of kind of cross-channel usership, if you will, Most consumers are, hey, I came across them on Amazon, but I want to check out their website to make sure they're legit, and then I might go back and buy on Amazon. We need to be able to attribute that through data. Web analytics does a little bit of that. You can get bigger into kind of media mix modeling when you bring in some of the bigger awareness campaigns, but we still need to think about that funnel. And we're seeing more and more of the maybe bottom funnel type companies or advertising channels, such as Amazon, such as even Google search, start to work their way up the funnel, right? And that could be something like retargeting, right? I know I've got something, I know the customer has something in the cart of mine, and I can retarget them, maybe give them a discount, kind of work my way up. Lookalike modeling is big as well, so I understand what my consumers look like. I have their email addresses. In a privacy safe way, I can expand that group and for future targets based on behaviors and interests. So working our way up there, and really where we're seeing the fastest growth, number one in all of digital media right now, really for the last year or two, has been connected TV. So this is your online TV, your streaming TV, and that is growing at 15, well actually more like 20% growth year over year in terms of spending. The retail folks that I work a lot with are one of the laggards in that model because it is a little more upper funnel. It is the ability to measure it is a little less than others. But in recent Thursday Night Football, Amazon's done a great job where they're actually starting to use QR codes, and they're starting to really close the loop in their measurement system of somebody who is putting a streaming commercial out there and actually tying that to the checkout process. So really cool to see. And then you think of something like Walmart, right? We almost all shop at Walmart. They've got the ability to have a really strong both closed loop measurement system of, hey, I might have seen it online or on my TV, and then did I purchase it? And it's all connected through the app and the email address and their information. But also taking buying behaviors and then selling those to advertisers in a privacy safe way, right? This guy has been looking at TVs for the last month. That'd be pretty cool data to have and then an action against in advertising. So yes, a lot of the channels need to work together. It really, for me, comes together on attribution and data and being able to track and understand who am I targeting, why am I targeting them, and then bringing it back to action. And it's still pretty hard to do across channel. They saw this on TikTok. They might have clicked or gone over to Amazon and buy it, but now TikTok is actually restricting some of that attribution tracking that went over to Amazon because they want to keep everybody in their walled gardens. So the walled gardens are making it a little bit tougher, but it's important to think about.
And this is a valuable perspective because I want to get your read on this because I've seen something happen or have experienced a change in connected TV and specifically in the digital advertising on connected TV. I would say probably for at least the last 2 years, if I am looking at a website, I remember this was maybe a year and a half ago. That was during COVID, and there was some exercise equipment. I was looking for a hydro, and that was a rowing machine, kind of sort of like a Peloton, but for rowing. And I remember I just had started to look at it on my home computer. And then within a day or two, all of a sudden, I started to see hydro advertisements, really powerful, compelling video advertisements as the commercials on connected TV or streaming television shows. And I thought, isn't that fascinating? Now I started the search there, and then I would see this advertisement. And that lasted for, I'd say 18 months. But I would say within the last 2 months, recently, I'm now starting to see things where I never started a search online, but I'm seeing a video streamed ad that I look at and I'm like, that's interesting. That probably would be something I would buy. So whereas before it was, I was only seeing the video streaming connected TV ad because I had initiated the search computer, from the computer or my phone, but I always saw it from the computer. But now I'm starting to see almost this extension where the advertising is getting more refined and targeted, where I'm now starting to see very similar to, if I'm on Amazon or the collaborative filtering and I bought this or you might like this, etc. Well, now the advertisements that I'm seeing on connected TV are far more targeted, even though I never had searched for that product before. What's your take on that?
Yeah, and another age-old question for you, Glenn, and I'll answer that question is, do you think your phone is listening to you?
Right, right. Or other, home devices, et
Right.
cetera. Yeah.
So all of these behaviors are being incorporated into advertising. Now, regarding the is your phone listening to you? Yes, the microphone is built on, and when you talk to any of the companies that are out there, they will tell you no, it's absolutely not. It is your behaviors, and people that are sharing your IP address or close to you physically, right? Because your phone, is following you around. And I mean, if you're Google, Android's about half of the devices. So Google knows when you've clicked an ad and went into, or at least they can tell the advertisers if you went into a Lowe's or Home Depot, right? That's part of their metrics, is they know online to offline through some of these behaviors. So what essentially is happening is, yes, the targeting is getting better, but also the behavior analysis is getting better. And I'm able to tap into these different audience groups that are tighter and tighter, and are able to take a lot of this behavior of you, people like you, people you've been around, and say, hey, this might be something Glenn's interested in. Also, as an advertiser, I can go, and use a lot of these DSPs, these targeting abilities. So in Amazon, if you've looked at my competitor page, or you have one of my competitor products in your cart, I can target you with my advertisement, right? Throughout the internet, right? On your TV. You think of Amazon, right? They own Audible, in your podcast, right? Through Prime TV. So there's all these sorts of signals that you're putting out there, and I think people are becoming more and more aware that are targetable. And then I think people are starting to understand it is the people around me that I surround myself with, that I act like, maybe in real life, but also maybe somewhere across the U.S. But they were looking for a hydro too. The other thing to think about too, if you're a company, is really segmenting out your customer list, right? You let's say for hydro, you put in your email address and you wanted more information. You didn't buy, right? But they know that, and assuming they're good marketers. But then, if you did buy it, they should be cross-selling and upselling, right? If they're any good. If you're a lapsed customer where, normally you would subscribe, or you dropped, or you didn't buy, they should have 6 or 9 or 12-month reach outs, where they're thinking about maybe giving you offers to get back and get involved. And potentially, if you purchased, make sure they don't continue to spam you and waste advertising dollars on products you already own. That's another crazy one, where it's like, I bought this, like, stop showing me the ad, right? And it's just
I'm already
it's
a customer.
amazing how long it takes for, I guess, some of the data to flow of, hey, this was sales, stop, take me out of the audience group for this product that you keep showing me, because I bought it and it's great, but like, you're wasting your advertising dollars. And that's still happening and getting a little bit better as well.
Well, and if
those closed loop systems help a lot with that, because if I bought it at Walmart and their DSP and their advertising technology knows, don't keep showing him the ad, because we know he bought it. So that helps a lot.
Right. Well, and if social media and all of the new ways of purchasing products, are continue to grow, what is your advice then for marketing operations executives? What should they be watching out for in terms of social media? Or how do you feel that this sort of new social media buying, how is that going to be impacting brands moving forward?
Yeah, the content side and having a voice is really of interest. So if you think of the Instagrams and you think of the TikToks, vertical video is where it's at. And you think of even TikTok versus Instagram. TikTok is a lot more kind of UGC, user-generated content, more casual, rougher, if you will. And then you think of something like on YouTube, right? You want to show somebody, more fancy, horizontal video. And that's very different. So you've got a voice and you've got a content strategy for all these different channels that pop up. So that's one thing to think about operationally. The second is just the ability to test and learn, right? This is all gonna take money. I mentioned earlier we live in dog years, 1 = 7. 6 months from now, there'll certainly be something new to test. So always have a budget that has, maybe 10% kind of earmarked as test and learn for the new channels. We don't know what's next. We don't know what's going to blow up. You're going to miss some, but it's important also to have that 3 or 6 month head start before it gets popular, right? TikTok Shop we talked about earlier, that's really just starting to gain steam now. You're still early. The CPCs will be low and the CPMs will be low until it gets saturated, and then hopefully you've worked out all the kinks, and then if you can compete or not. You've done your profitability numbers. You've got your lifetime value tracking in place, whatever it needs to be, and there's still newcomers trying to figure out, and you're very quickly like, hey, I can bid 63 cents max, and that's it. Other than that, I'm not profitable. So the test and learn mentality is still important, and has always been important in digital marketing. We just don't know what the next 6 months or 6 years is going to hold.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I saw some research from Vimeo, and some of the research that Vimeo found was that I think it was 86% of viewers are prioritizing authenticity, and that 66% wanted to see regular people. But the part that I thought was so interesting was this notion you were talking about, TikTok, and the advertising that TikTok does. 61% of viewers found that the advertisements on TikTok were considered more unique compared to polished advertising on other social platforms. So it's this notion, as you were saying, authenticity was really, really critical. And so I think that this aligns really, really tightly to what you're saying here.
Yeah, and Gen Z is mentioned, that they're growing from 46 million consumers this year to 61 million in 2027. That is really, different behaviors than we've seen before, even with millennials. So, how are you going to test and learn into that audience? And great points on authenticity. Does that apply to Gen Z as it does millennials and X and so forth?
Mm-hmm. When you were talking about diversification, is there a tie, either a direct tie or indirect tie between diversification and profitability? And if so, what recommendations do you have for brands?
Yeah, absolutely it does. It's that early mover advantage. I think Walmart has been one of the best examples over the last 2 years that we've seen. They rolled out their third-party marketplace, and Amazon continued to get more and more competitive. So we all hopefully know that the sales formula in marketing operation, which is revenue equals traffic times average order value times conversion rate, right? So those are my 3 areas I can play with. So Walmart historically has shown both cheaper traffic, lower CPCs, and actually stronger conversion rates because there was less competition there, and that has really made for better ROI from an efficiency standpoint. And we've even seen some companies that we've worked with find more volume in Walmart than even Amazon. So that's really how we're looking at profitability, is that early mover advantage, this auction-based CPC, as it gets more crowded and people, I think, have sharpened their pencils on profitability, know what they can bid. You've usually got several months of kind of head start, and TikTok's kind of the example du jour. You can get in there, figure things out, and understand the platform, and get while the getting's good, right? You will see higher conversion rates on the early days. You will see lower CPCs and CPMs from an efficiency standpoint as well.
Sure. And when you think specifically then about physical retail stores and physical marketing, since the last time that we spoke, how have you been seeing both the physical and digital marketing progress?
Yeah, it's been interesting. Overall retail sales are still low single digits, right? We're kind of seeing a 3.5% growth forecasted for the year. I just saw some information, I think last month, August, was around 2.5. So slower growth, even for holiday. I don't think it's going to get above 4. So physical still is massive, right? Trillion dollars plus of total sales. It's important, and we still, 1 out of 5 sales is online. So 4 still happen in the retail world. Still important to be there, but you're just not having that growth. So it's really when you're working with the physical retailers and trying to get your products on the shelves, the retailer themselves is saying, all right, if I take this off and put this in that limited spot, it better make me more money. And, it's a great analogy to how Google and Amazon work with their organic rankings, right? Whatever's at the top of my rankings better make me more money and get more clicks than what I'm moving down. So It's been interesting there. Online sales, we're seeing around 9-10% projected this year. So still some good growth there, but still high single digits. The smartphones and mobile are still big drivers there. And then finally, we talk about the kind of online retailers and marketplaces. This is where we're seeing the most growth still, 12-13% this year. So we're in double digits. For holiday, we're expecting online to be about 10%. Last year in 2022, holiday retail, the physical retail, just crushed numbers because it was kind of the year everybody came out of COVID and is back shopping, and Black Friday doorbusters kind of came back. So it's going to be interesting to see this holiday if people stick to that or they go back online. Online's interesting because we're really pushing the season forward into October, training customers around Prime Day, which is October 10th, 11th this year, but always starting in kind of that early mid-October. That gets people kind of going early for the deals. Then there's kind of a lull until that Turkey 5, Cyber 5 weekend when it's kind of the second peak. So it's interesting to see the development of kind of the online double peak holiday mentality. But a lot of growth overall, but some in places more than others.
Yeah, well, and the importance, everything you just stated there is the importance, particularly for consumer brands, how you need to be where the buyer is. And so that means right now there's a lot of places you need to be, both physical, online, marketplace, social. There's a lot of places to cover. And so, but understanding the measurement around, the efficacy of that, the attribution of that, it just becomes even more important for marketers everywhere to understand where are they placing their bets. So Jeff, before we wrap up today's episode, as before, I'm interested in what is your main takeaway today that you want to help, that you want to share to help understand the challenges that are facing marketing operations today?
Yeah, it's really off of that last point you just made, and it is a centralized view of performance. Have one place, one language set up, tracking parameters, taxonomy and language in place so you're able to, as a marketer, understand what's working and what's not. And don't let different partners or agencies build silos, because a lot of times those media budgets become political, right? Your Amazon agency, if you have a single channel agency, which I wouldn't recommend, is going to protect their Amazon budget from the social budget, but the consumer's going to both places. And if one's converting better than the other, or you don't have a strategy that kind of incorporates both of them like a consumer thinks, that's going to be a problem. So that's my final takeaway, is kind of have that single view of the consumer as they work across channel and buy in multiple, but through multi-touches.
Great insights. Well, that wraps up this episode of The Art of Marketing Operations. Thank you so much for joining us again today, Jeff. I hope we can talk again soon.
I love it. Let's make it a 3-time deal.
Well, until next time, stay safe and take care.
Thank you for listening to The Art of Marketing Operations, brought to you by Taylor. Don't forget to hit subscribe in your favorite podcast player. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and share. Until next time.